that up. Perfect. Carolyn, I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me do this for you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I generally start out with questions just asking what got you interested or involved in needlework to start with? Loaded question, right?
Well, of course, I'm from an era when everyone had the 11 zillion dish towels and pillowcases embroidered in their hope chest. And so that's kind of what I started with. I was probably about 8 when I started my first embroidery.
Oh, wow.
And I've kind of done it now a little bit all the time. I always did sewing because I did custom dressmaking for years. But it wasn't until, let's see, I joined the guild in, I think, 1988. And there was this whole new world of all these fun things and these new stitches and these techniques that I'd never heard of, or, I'd seen, but I didn't know anything about. And so, whoa, it's like a whole new world out there.
Very cool. And have you always been in the Salt Lake area?
Generally, I've lived a little bit in Idaho and Arizona, and within about, I was born in Ogden, of course, Shepherd's Bush fame, but generally in this area, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And so how did you, so once you saw all these wonderful new techniques and things from the guild, how'd you get from being a stitcher to being a designer teacher?
Well, I've always designed, even when it was for my own things. But after I joined Guild, I ended up going to a seminar in Grand Junction, Colorado. And then I started Master Craftsman. Mm-hmm. And I had been working at the Craft Center of Fine Needlework, the stitchery store where I work. And mostly it was there. If someone came in and bought a kit, then I would help them with whatever, because a lot of it was self-taught, but I kind of knew what I was doing. And anyway, I started Master Craftsman, and there were a bunch of us that got together on Saturday to stitch together. And so I brought in one of the pieces, and one of the people that were there said, "Oh, you absolutely have to teach us how to do that." So I kind of started doing that. And then that was actually the first piece that I taught, because I submitted it to the seminar in Ogden. Mm-hmm. And they picked it up. And I had taught for guilds before, but I never taught for a seminar. So that was my first seminar teaching piece.
Oh, wow. Was that White Queen at that seminar?
No, White Queen came after that. It's one called Tudor Rose. It's a blackwork piece.
Okay. Yeah, I remember they had that Renaissance theme, and I knew you had White Queen. I thought maybe that was how they matched up, but
yeah, no, it was Tudor Rose.
Okay. Very cool. So how long did it take you to get your Master Craftsman done?
About 3, maybe 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then I did that, and then maybe 6 months later, they asked me to be chairman of Master Craftsman. And so I did that for 5 years then. And okay. We had a really good group of judges. Carol Renard would fly up from New Mexico to judge with us, which was fabulous.
Oh,
because her depth was so good. And yeah, that was fun.
Very cool. Oh. And then you do something else for EG8, don't you? Or you did? Besides the Master Craftsman? I thought I remembered.
Well, I've held plenty of local chapters. I was region director a number of years ago. What else did I do? I kind of oversaw the tapestry panel that the region did, but that was, my small contribution was there were so many people who kind of picked it up and ran with it and took it places, and we shipped it places, and so I was involved in that also.
Very cool. So what is your favorite technique? I know when we were emailing back and forth that I've generally mostly seen your drawn work and your black work, but you said, that was kind of what you got known for. But what would you say your favorite technique is? What you enjoy the most?
Hard to tell. Right now, I'm really enjoying gold work.
Okay.
But if I had one technique that I've always loved, it's Ayrshire embroidery. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you think of the Victorian white christening gowns, those beautiful white on white textured with lace fillings, I love that. I've never taught it because I'm not sure if there are enough people who would really be interested in taking a class in it. I mean, they love it and that, but I've never taught a class on it. But it is kind of like Dresden embroidery. Mm-hmm. And so I have taught, pulled thread in Dresden embroidery. So I've kind of taught it, just not on the Ayrshire kind of part. And
is Ayrshire a specific technique or name for that? Or is it the ground cloth, or how do they come up with the name?
Well, Ayrshire is a district in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And it became known for that specific kind of embroidery. When they were doing the embroidered muslins and the really lightweight cottons, mm-hmm. they were embroidered with the white cotton thread, and then they would cut out little sections and put lace in it. So you'd have like a flower, satin stitch flower, and then in the center you could have a beautiful lace motif in that section.
And it was cut out and replaced with lace versus doing a pulled thread or something like that?
Yeah, although there were some pulled thread sections to it. It was the really beautiful ones were actually cut out and replaced with a needle lace.
Very cool. So, and I know you said, I can't remember now. So, okay.
There's some things we've always enjoyed. I mean, I can't think of anyone who hasn't seen like the stumpwork caskets, those needlework boxes, mm-hmm. and isn't just wowed by them. So when Tricia Nguyen did that class of hers that started at least 10 years ago, I signed up for it immediately and did the 18 months. And I've been kind of gradually working through that. So the stumpwork is really fun. I mean, that kind of technical embroidery is so interesting. And it's fascinating to know how young the girls were that did it. Of course, that's branched out now because like Jane Nicholas does and Allison Cole, mm-hmm. kind of do a form of it, although they don't strictly follow the 16th century techniques. But I mean, their work is fabulous and fun to do. And I think it's really approachable for people, which is nice. Because some of the really technical stuff looks so intimidating that I think people, they kind of think I can't do that, or I don't have time, or where if you just pick parts of it out, it's a lot of fun to do. And it's really not that hard because most of it is techniques that we already do and things that we do. We just don't kind of put it together the same way that they did.
Yeah, I've looked at those stumpwork boxes when they come out, different ones, but I've never attempted one yet. They look really cool. But let me see. I was gonna let me pull up this picture you sent because I thought this was so cool. see if I can make this bigger. And screen share. So this was one of the pictures that you sent me.
Right.
That's a skirt and jacket that you made. So is this, from what I could tell looking at this, this is like doll sized?
Yeah, it's from the bottom of the skirt to the top of the jacket is only about 7 inches tall. Has kind of an interesting story. The jackets are Elizabethan and, well, a little bit later into Charles, but they are, if anybody remembers what the Plymouth jacket was, or that polychrome jacket that they reproduced for Plymouth Plantation. Well, I was meandering around Pinterest and saw a rectangle with a pattern, blackwork pattern on it. And of course, I love the blackwork. So I thought, I'm going to pin that. So I pinned it and I started following it back to the original source. And I was able to find out that it was actually a sleeve that came from the online magazine called Gifts of Stitches. And then I had to try and find the magazine because, of course, by that time they'd stopped publishing it. So I traced it back, and the gal who published the magazine and still owns the copyrights has a shop on Etsy. And you can go ahead and buy, single magazines or the whole series. And when I was buying it, I just was able to get the single magazine, but I've since ordered the download of the whole series. But anyway, so this jacket was featured in one of those magazines. And later, as I was working on it, I found out that the design part of it, not the blackwork part, but the actual shape of the jacket and everything, came from a woman named Janet Arnold, who was a really famous costume historian. And she would take the period clothing and she would create scaled down patterns, actually like on a 1-inch grid. So you could scale it up to fit normal, size people anyway. So it was one of her patterns. So it's an accurate physical shape of this jacket. And then it has all these blackwork patterns on it. So the jacket itself is done on a 55 count linen with size 100 black silk sewing thread.
Wow. So
the jacket itself is probably about 2.5 inches tall. And then I decided that, if it had a jacket, it needed a skirt. So did some research and designed this. So it's kind of a salmon colored silk, which was a super popular color at that time. And then just designed one kind of a little flower pattern and then a border that would have been kind of period appropriate for a jacket like that. Stitched it up. So of course I did the petticoat and the, if you do one, you have to do the whole thing. So that's what it is.
How'd you stitch the flowers?
They're embroidered with silk threads.
Okay. The petals look, I was wondering if they were metal because the petals seemed such a perfect shape, but.
Well, they're kind of dimensional. What I did was when I put the pattern on, I did just kind of a little line, like 5 little lines around the center. And then I did like 5, 6, or 7 stitches, one on top of the other, just satin stitches. So it kind of poofed up a little, which is probably what gives it that effect.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, I was wondering what the count was because the detail of your black work, with the caterpillar and the snail and the bird and the.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I got into the pattern and got stitching it. And because she had taken kind of the idea and just did, it's counted, but it's counted, sometimes it's like one thread over and one thread high, which I didn't quite realize on 55 count, which was a little difficult. But so they're not always two, but you know how we usually count 2 over and 2 up on linen. Well, some of these are 1 over and 3 up, or they're kind of irregular, so you kind of have to keep track of what you're doing to get those great rounded shapes and things.
It's just beautiful. Get that back down. How long did that take to do?
Probably not yet. Well, it's like
you start it and stop it.
Yeah, you start it and you stop it. Actually, the stitching didn't take, it probably took a couple of months maybe, but that was kind of on and off type thing. The finishing, however, was kind of really picky because you stitched it and then you had to coat the edges of it with a really interesting glue, and then you had to clip parts of it because there are little triangular shaped gussets in the skirt part of the jacket.
I saw that here.
Yeah, and so they're only like one thread. Yeah, you can see it right there.
Right
and
there.
So between the straight sides, there was only like one thread in between them. So you had to cut really carefully all your stitched work. So and it was really tedious because that even over 2, you're still talking over 25 stitches to the inch. So anyway, interesting. And I love how it turned out, but that's probably the only piece of black work I'm not going to do on that scale. Because
I bet. That is just gorgeous.
But it's been kind of fun. One thing the pandemic has done is kind of given me time to sit there and go, okay, what have I always wanted to try?
So is that what the first 3 pictures were you sent me?
Oh, let's see. What have I sent you?
You sent me
okay.
Sweet Lips PC.
Okay. This one is what I did. I took an online class from Natalie Dupuy on couching. And she went through all the different kinds of couching. Of course, I knew there was couching. And so she did Italian and ornue and vermicelli and on and on and on. And it was a lot of fun. So she asked us at the end to kind of take a lot of the techniques that we learned and put it into one piece. So this is my kind of final piece for that couching class. So I kind of threw the kitchen sink at all the colors and techniques and just had fun. And if there wasn't a technique like on the tail, I just kind of made it up as I went along. So she's kind of fun. She was meant to kind of make you smile when you look at her.
She definitely does that. So what are the different types of couching?
Okay, let's see. Well, ornue is usually is straight lines of couching that you put designs in, and so I kind of bent the rules a little. So the top section that is kind of that reddish gold is so the flowers that are in it, those are couched in. So as I was stitching it down, I stitched that pattern in, and that's an interesting thread. It's one that's kind of changeable. So in some lights it looks red and in others it looks gold. So it's really kind of fun. So that's, and then I'm trying to remember what all the names were. And then the next section down, the purple section, it was a darker purple thread. And so the lighter purple sections I've just couch satin stitched all of those and then let the other ones kind of be long, and that's how you got the checkerboard effect. And then the turquoise underneath it, that's the vermicelli. Vermicelli is Italian for little worms. And so I just couched a turquoise thread down for that. And then the silvery section on the bottom is, I just couched it with silver and kind of an aqua shade, and just to give the spotted pattern in the bottom.
Did you paint the fabric blue where you have the vermicelli?
Yeah, what I did, so actually the whole background for the fish is left over from a class I taught a number of years ago, where I dyed the silk kind of this pale aqua. And so a lot of the couching, it's nice to have a color behind it. And so there are some pens that you can get. They're an alcohol-based archival ink. They're called, it just went, I'll think of it in a minute. Copic pens, C-O-P-I-C.
Okay.
Anyway, they're great. They have either a fine tip or a broad tip. And so I was able to color in the turquoise that I did the vermicelli over. And so that's how it's darker than the background for the whole thing. And it makes it nice because if you paint it in like that, that way, if your two threads don't quite meet, then you don't have background color showing through, other than, you paint it to match your, to match the threads that you're working with.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah, she really is fun. She's just like I say, she was done just because she makes me smile.
And how big is it?
I think she's about 5 inches tall. So she's not that big, maybe 5 inches tall and about 6.5 inches long.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wandering there on the internet one day, and I got onto Ben and Johnson's website from England, and they sell all kinds of absolutely fabulous goldwork threads. And so they had something that they called a sample box. So and it was maybe $15, and I thought, well, let's see what's in a sample box. So I ordered one, and it came with all kinds of wonderful colors of threads that are, what size would they be? I'm trying to think. What they would be comparable to, like maybe a size 4 Kreinik braid, except they're not, that one's braided, so it's a little uneven texture. These are really smooth. So the kind of the greeny shade that's around the lips, that's a shade of this thread that I got from them. So it has blue and green in it, and it's really fun. So that's literally one color just couched. But it color changes because of the way the thread is. So I got all kinds of really fun threads from them.
Very cool. And then you had the butterfly.
I had the butterfly. Okay, this butterfly is only about 2.5 inches tall. And this one is kind of like Jane Nicholas has her books on beetles and butterflies and different things like that. So I did several pieces out of that. And so this is taking a lot of her techniques, where the wings and things are done on a separate piece of fabric, and then they're wired on the edge and then applied. And these are all done in coppery kinds of colors. So I've got copper beads and check pearls and bullions and all kinds of fun things. Just kind of fun.
What's this that the abdomen top is made out of?
That actually is a long piece of a check pearl. So it's probably about maybe 1/2 inch long. I just cut it and I just put them side by side. So what you can see is the really wiggly edge of the twist of the check pearl.
Very cool. Get this down a little bit. And then was your mille fleur.
Okay. When I do some wandering around on Pinterest, because it gives me all kinds of fun things to look at and ideas. And so I found a jewelry artist called Marianne Hunter, and she does the most fabulous. They almost look, she calls them kabuki kachinas, which is kind of an odd thing, but they look almost like kimono shape. And she does them enamels and gold and things like that, but she will take pieces of jewelry and incorporate them into her designs. And so the pin, the floral pin with the green that's in the center, was my grandmother's. And I've just had it sitting in a display cabinet. And it is glass mosaic from Italy. And so I decided I wanted to kind of take that idea of taking that and doing a design from the round shape and just kind of echoing that type of thing in the jewelry. And so then what I did was I took the round shape, and of course the whole thing is oval, but then all the other shapes in it are they're arcs of a circle. So everything in there is circular. You know, it's all rounded rather than straight.
Uh-huh.
And I used a lot of the couching techniques that I did. I think the very bottom, that's the blue and white. Yeah, now that one is straight. That one is, I keep wanting to call it pattern darning, but it's not, but it's the same type thing, but it's a couching technique where you just do the pattern in the straight lines. But yeah, so that's how that one came about. And I'd put something in and go, oh, it needs something more. So then I'd add a little bit more and use all kinds of different threads and just played just with all the colors and shapes that came out of that pin.
Oh, good.
Very cool. So when you're doing this with the couching, did your needle run up and down to do the couching?
So the satin stitches run vertical.
Okay.
The silver threads run horizontal, and then the satin stitches over it that form the pattern run vertical.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you worked the diagonal.
No, you're supposed to lay the couching stitches all the way from side to side. So what you do is you lay it from side to side, and then you couch that pattern all the way across.
So do you couch each time you lay a side to side, or do you put all the side to sides down and then start the couching?
No, I couched every row that's of side to side.
As you put it down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
And you do put some lines on the fabric behind the couching so you can keep it fairly straight. It's not perfect, but it does, keep it as straight as possible.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Get back down here a little bit.
And I think now that it's finished, I think I'm going to make a box and make that as the lid to the box.
That'd be very pretty.
Yeah, I thought it'd make a really fun lid to bow box. So I will do that with it.
That's beautiful. Are you going to stitch something around the outside of the box to go with it too?
I don't think so. I think I'm probably going to use maybe a gold silk or something like that. And I won't say never, but at this point, I don't intend to.
And then there was this one that you sent that looks fascinating.
Okay, this one is kind of fun. this fall I was up in the mountains just when the aspen leaves were turning colors. And I had never really studied them as they had turned colors before, because you think, okay, they're green and now they're gold. Well, there's kind of in between things. So I went ahead and picked some leaves and pressed them and thought I wanted to make kind of a vase with just the leaves. So I took some really sheer silk organdy, and I drew the shape of the leaf on it. And then I used those Copic pens that I've used before to color them in green and different shades of gold. And then I used, let's see, what about 2 shades of green and I think 4 shades of yellow to stitch. And so the outside of the leaves are all wired. Those in the stems are all wired. And then and then for the inside, all the veins of the leaves, I just did it with a double running stitch. So it looks the same as out front and back. So I did try to keep them really reversible, so that when you looked through it, you couldn't tell what was the front and what was the back. And then I cut all the leaves out, and then I just, wherever they touched, as invisibly as possible, I just stitched them together. So it literally is a free form cylinder of aspen leaves that go from, of course, the green up through where you get the green, everything kind of turns yellow, but the veins stay green up through the lightest golds at the top.
Very cool. How hard was it to cut out the wired leaves from the fabric? That would be I could see my scissors slipping.
Oh, yeah, it's, I've learned a couple of things about it over the years. Jane Nicholas talks about, in fact, I took a couple of classes from her, and she has you stitch your pieces on usually a white background, and then very carefully cut them out, and you end up all these little tiny white whiskery bits around the edge, which are kind of annoying. So a bunch of years ago, I decided, well, if they're going to be there, I may paint them a little bit. So I've taken to painting the color of whatever I've been stitching, which helps. And then I took another class, which is why you should always be taking classes. You never know what goodie you're going to get out of it. Took another class from Cynthia Jackson, who is trained at the Royal School of Needlework. And she was having us do something where we stitch it and then cut it out. And she said on the back, you just flip it over, and there's she gave us the name of this glue, but it's like PVA type glue. And if you just paint just the wire edge, when you cut it out, if you happen to nick a thread, it doesn't fall apart on you. So I did that, and I took it like a brush with about 5 hairs in it, and I very carefully painted just the wire edge all the way around, and then let it dry, and it dries perfectly clear, so that when I trimmed it, I was able to get as close as I possibly could. I don't have the little thread bits sticking out, and it's not quite as heart-stopping when you cut it out, because you don't have to worry so much about clipping if you accidentally happen to clip a thread.
Very cool. Good tip. That's beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, just gorgeous. And how tall was this one? Or if you told us, I forgot.
I'm thinking about 8 inches maybe. Okay. Well, the aspen leaves are the size of aspen leaves. I literally took the leaf and traced it onto the fabric to get my pattern. So it's however big an aspen leaf is. So the cylinder is probably about maybe 3 inches in diameter and probably about 8 inches tall.
Okay. It's beautiful. And then you sent me some of your blackwork designs.
Mm-hmm.
This is the pin pillow woven wheel.
Yeah. So this is part of a class maybe that I have coming up. You know how it goes. You sign up for everything and then the pandemic hits and the world goes crazy. And so theoretically, it's going to be a class, but they've not announced it. So I just kind of shared just a little tiny bit of it. But anyway, so it's black work, but it's using the colors, which is kind of fun. And then I threw a little bit of gold in.
I see that.
Just to keep it interesting.
And do you teach fully reversible black work or as much double running as you can, or?
Okay, the Celtic border around it, the ribbon is actually reversible. So that one is. Okay. The pattern in the leaves is reversible. The center isn't, because see how in some of the areas, especially toward the outside of it, you've got a stitch that's kind of in the middle of an area. Oh, anytime you do that, it's not reversible anymore. Okay. So black work runs all the way from absolutely perfectly reversible to it's not going to be, it's never going to be, don't worry about it. And so I kind of use a combination of techniques. And then this one I've added the gold, and of course it's really little. So you look at it blown up on your screen and you think, oh, that one's not as straight as I wanted. But when you think of it as being what, about 2.5 inches square, it looks a whole lot better.
And then there was this one, the pear.
Okay, and that's another one from a possibly upcoming class, and just shows shading. So to shade it, I've added the gold to kind of add a fun touch to it.
And what weight is the gold that you put in there?
Let's see. Excuse me.
That's okay.
That is probably, let's see, it's silk, so it's probably Soie de Paris. So it's about the weight of a strand of regular stranded embroidery floss, like DMC floss is about the weight of the black. And then the gold would be I don't remember what it is. It's terrible. I know I have it written down.
I was just curious of how you compare the silk to the gold and
well, that gold ends up being about the same size. So a lot of times I'll use like a #1 Japanese gold size, and you can just get that from Kreinik as well as, Japanese Embroidery Center. And sometimes when I want it a little thicker, I'll double it, which I normally don't do in black work. Normally in black work, you use a single strand, thinner or thicker, depending on the shading that you want. But with gold, you can get away with doing 2 strands. So sometimes when I want something that looks heavier, I'll go ahead and use 1 strands in some places and 2 strands in another. And because you don't get what happens when you have a dark thread and you stitch 2 strands, they'll kind of want to separate, like instead of being together, they'll kind of want to spring apart. Well, the gold optically doesn't do that because it's so shiny and the light shines off of it. Even if it does happen to separate a little, your eye doesn't see that. So then you get the weight that you want without having to try and find, can I have a gold thread that's pliable enough to stitch with, but has enough weight so it gives me the weight I need. So a lot of times I'll just use 2 strands of the #1 Japanese gold to stitch with.
Okay. That's pretty. And then this last one that you had, this is just gorgeous.
Okay, this is a kind of a one of a kind. There's an artist that I really like. His name is James Christensen, and he does kind of really almost fantasy things. And he has a piece that's called Faith, Hope, and Charity with 3 angels. And of course, his angels have butterfly wings. And so this is the angel of faith. And so, of course, his is a print. So I took the drawing and I translated it into black work.
Let's get her a little bigger.
So it's just gold, black and gold patterns. And so depending on how you use them, you end up with the shading of the shapes and everything and the different layers that he puts in it when I've worked with the different colors.
And what count is this one on?
32 count linen.
It's beautiful. Are you going to do the other 2 angels too?
Probably not. I'm thinking of stitching at least, well, if not one of them, one of his other figures in just a lot of surface embroidery, cool techniques, silk shading, that type of thing, because he uses fabulous colors. And in the original, her wings are golds and oranges and blacks and even a little green thrown in, which is odd, but it works. It's fun. So having the multicolor would be really neat on it.
It would be. She's beautiful though.
Thank you.
Just gorgeous. Oh. Very cool. Oh, thank you so much for sharing those.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I did send out to everybody if you had a piece of Carolyn's that you wanted to share, that we could do a show and tell. Did anybody bring one? Okay. Let's see, I've got hands going up. I saw Kathy Green first, so why don't you unmute, Kathy?
Okay.
And I'm gonna spotlight you so everybody can see you.
So we are doing the Blackwork squares in the 2 chapters that I'm in, and I'm kind of the coordinator. So I got my Biscornu finished.
Very cool.
And that was fun. And then I never sent this in because it took me so long to get it done, but I did the perfectly counted crosses.
Ah.
And so I'll just kind of pull it up.
Wow.
And I learned an enormous amount from that. Starting with, I had no idea there was more than one kind of cross stitch. But I really enjoyed it a lot. It just took me way a long time. And those are my 2 pieces of yours, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool. I think I saw Joanne next. So
I have the advantage of being in guild with Carolyn, so I have a lot of her pieces. So this is a really cute design that she designed for our guild name tag.
Oh, cool.
That was my first introduction to Carolyn. And then I took my very first, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. My very first black work and gold class I took from her. Let's see. Get this closer. There we go. So these are kind of just little Chinese type squares
Very
that
cool.
I'm going to mount in a picture sometime, but they're really cute. And I finally figured out how to do black work. And then we had a guild project of making a box, and Carolyn showed us how to glue on the box and how to do everything. So we have this lovely little travel box, And then of course we had to put things in it. So then she designed this really cute pulled work, and I had never done pulled work. So it's a little bag. And she showed us how to do French seams. I mean, it's great.
Oh, nice.
And then we had a little blanket pin cushion with our little origami emery.
Oh.
So that goes in that box. And then there was another box.
Another box.
So then this is another box of hers, which is.
Oh, how cool.
So it's made to fit right on top of a Kleenex box. So it's a Kleenex box size.
Okay.
And then you had to have stuff to go in it. So there's this little pin cushion. And then there's a scissor sheath.
Oh, wow.
And
Are
there's
those French knots or?
those are Smyrna's.
Okay.
And then there's a little needle book. Looks like that. And then I was in another guild with her called Swan, and they did this magnificent book, and it's called Sisters Through Time. And so this is Carolyn's design of a needle roll.
Well, it's not all mine. It's I kind of collaborated with other people on that.
On this one, okay, so that was one of them. But then this one's yours too, isn't it?
Yeah, that one's one of mine.
This is hers, and it's a tool holder.
Oh, cool.
And then I think, is this one yours too? I think this one's yours too.
Yeah, that's mine too.
This is a scissor sheath. And then we have this lovely box that's lined, and you can take the lining out, and you have these little drawstrings, and it makes into a little purse.
Oh, cool.
So that's that one. Then, like I say, it's really nice to have her in the guild. We're doing some projects for this year, and she showed us how to do a Jacob's
ladder.
Ladder. So you can open it this way, and it opens this way.
Very cool.
And it has a little emery that she showed us how to do. So it's emery. And then there was a regional meeting here a couple of years ago, and she taught a class, and it's this needle roll. And
very cool.
A needle book.
I think
and a scissor sheath.
Yeah.
And then I took a class from her that, probably been 5 years ago. And I finally got done, and it's this pretty little opera purse.
Oh, wow.
It's black work and gold. And then it has your little mirror case. She even included the mirror in the kit. So
that's beautiful.
So yeah, and then I'm working on her. This is one of my UFOs, her basket of gold.
Oh yeah. Wow.
That's all the ones I could find today.
Those are beautiful, Joanne.
Fun, they're fun.
Yeah. Let's see, there were a couple more hands I thought I saw. Nan Windle. Okay, hang on, Nan. Let me spotlight you here so everybody can see. All right, go for it. Nope, you're on mute, dear. There you go.
Okay. I'm not in her chapter, but if there's such a thing as a teacher's groupie, I think I'm a groupie. One of the first things, well, no, I have several things. I have all of those things that, a lot of those things that Joanne showed.
Oh, wow.
And this is a purse. Is that right? Can you see it?
Yeah.
This was a purse that she taught
Oh, is
in,
that French lace purse?
it's the
Yeah,
French
yeah.
lace purse, and she taught it in Durango.
Durango. Mine's still on the stretcher bars.
And the thing about this purse is there was another group of people. We were at the college there, and there was another group of people, and they said, well, why are you here? And I said, well, we're stitchers. And class started the next day, and all these people are out walking around on campus and walking by our classroom, and we're all pounding with our hammers to get our frames put together. And I'm thinking, they're going to wonder how we stitch if we use hammers. And then the very first piece I really took from Carolyn was the White Queen. And the White Queen hung on my wall. And then I was making a vest, and I was running out of wall space, and I got the front of the vest done with options on Hardanger that somebody else taught. And then I found did this little design.
Come on.
Well, that might be hard to see. It's white work.
Oh, kind of.
That's one of hers. And so then I took the White Queen off the wall.
Oh,
and put it
wow.
on the back of the vest.
Wow.
And I call this piece, The Walls Are Full. And then when I was on the region board, part of the time when she was director and before and after also, she designed this, which is a box lid. I got the box lid done 3 times. I did
You made
2 times.
3 box lids?
I made 3 box lids because they were donated by the region to the national seminars.
Hmm.
And some of the people in the region all did different pieces. And then I think Connie Fudge finished them all.
No.
And after I'd finished the second one, I said, well, I need one. So I did a third one. And I have the pieces in the box stitched, but not finished yet. And then in 2006, I took a class from her when we were at Glorietta. And this is called Hannah's House. And I can't, oh, there we go.
There we go.
That's side
Oh.
1.
Uh-huh.
There's an end.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Here's the inside of the roof.
Uh-huh.
Down, probably. This is the roof.
Very cool.
And then the other side, one side you have a green tree and an apple. And this side has the apple tree, and I think the other side that I showed you had the green tree with the tree with the bird in it, but there were no apples.
Okay.
And there's a rabbit on this side and a little duck down here. And then the back side.
That is beautiful.
That is cool.
And I just bought a little curio cabinet. So all of these little pretty things can be in it. This is I'm not sure what they call these. Carolyn, what do they call these ones?
a lot of times they're called toys. So that
Okay.
one is a pattern book. So
The pattern book, okay. I have a pin cushion.
Tiny.
And a tape measure. And she told us when she designed this tape measure that she designed it so that one of them was not quite right because somebody had taken a bite out of the apple already. And oh, and then I have what Kathy showed. I did perfectly counted crosses also.
Ah. That's beautiful, Nan.
And I have 3 white muslin bags with 4 of her projects in them that will someday be finished. That's my my UFO drawer. I was looking at them tonight. Some of them, one of them is the one that she taught in Salt Lake for the region meeting. And I did do, most of the stitching is done on those. It's just not finished. So I kind of like taking classes from Carolyn.
thank you.
Who's next? Kathleen. You're on mute, Kathleen, still.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I also enjoy taking classes from Carolyn. I think she's very incredibly talented. Here is my white queen, but I did it in pink.
Beautiful.
And this is one of my favorite pieces, is the swan bag, sweet bag.
Okay.
And I just love it.
That's
And I've done all the pieces, all the parts, and they're inside. She came to Albuquerque and taught once, and I was able to take her Chinese purse.
Oh.
And I added a lot of beads to it. And is in my life, if it calls for 1 bead, I've got to put 20 beads on. So this was a great project. Here's her beekeeper's cottage. I think that's what it is.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Isn't that a marvelous little piece? I've never done the accessories. I've just love the house. So I've just kind of stuck with that. Here's another piece. There's the front, there's the back.
Wow.
Scissors case and fob. And the scissors case, her finishing technique was very interesting. I'd never done anything like that before. And so that was a lot of fun to learn something new. And then I have this last piece. It's a purse.
Are they thistle?
No, they're carnations, aren't they, Carolyn?
Yeah, they are carnations.
Yep. And then I put my initial on the back.
Lovely.
And it came with a needle case. And scissors fob, yeah. Scissors holder and fob.
Beautiful.
So that's what I have. Just a couple.
Yes.
Just a couple.
Thank you, Carolyn, for such marvelous projects.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for doing them.
Oh, wonderful.
Do more if my house wasn't full of other things. Like the couching class that I'm taking from Natalie right now.
Does anyone else have anything?
Yes.
Oh, wave your hand. I can't find you.
Catherine Bartholomew.
Catherine. Okay.
At
the national seminar in Santa Fe, as a fundraiser, Carolyn donated 2 teaching days.
Oh,
In
wow.
Central Pennsylvania and New York, we are a group of friends, went together and were the successful bidders. It took us about 3 years to make the arrangements to bring her to the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. Instead of a fancy hotel, we hosted her at a hunting club, complete with hardwood floors and rustic furniture. And I believe she had a good time. I know the 8 of us that spent the 3 nights with her had a ball.
Oh, I had a wonderful time.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember the name of the piece, but I think it's truly one of a kind because I know the other gals have yet to finish theirs.
Okay, that one is called Ojimi.
Thank you.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And have you taught it as a class since?
I don't think I've taught it since. I taught it before, but I don't think I've taught it since.
Okay.
That's
It was a
beautiful.
challenge.
I bet. That's gorgeous.
It was fun to do, but quite a challenge. So
Oh,
that's
it
my-
turned out beautifully.
Thank you.
How fun. Anyone else? I don't see any hands waving. Make sure my eyes aren't fussing at me. So let's see. Cancel spotlight. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Carolyn?
I do.
Sure, go ahead.
Is Hannah's house available to purchase?
No, about the only way to get it now is if I happen to have a stray kit hanging around. What happens when I teach is I always make an extra kit because you never know when you get to class if you forget something out of one. So I'm robbing kits that way. So a few of my teaching pieces, I have, a kit that's left over. So I do have a few of those, but, and I've never really sold the pattern, apart from the kit. So it would just depend on if I have a kit or not. But anyway, I've loved seeing all of the pieces, and it's nice to know there are a few stray ones hanging around in drawers. I can't tell you how many pieces I have from classes I've taken that are just in a box, and I think I like that class and I'm actually going to finish that, but I haven't gotten to it yet. One of the fun things that our guild did this last year or so is we had a UFO challenge. And so we'd put a little bit of money in the kitty, and then every month, if you didn't stitch on it, you had to throw another quarter in. So it was great incentive to pick up some of those pieces that you had worked on but hadn't quite finished, and go ahead and put some time in and go ahead and finish them. And I finished, I think, at least 2, which was great.
Very cool. Anyone else have a question?
I do.
Sure.
Carolyn, where can we find your items, your patterns and stuff to purchase?
There's kind of, okay, let me give you a blog spot. Okay, I abandoned my website because it was too much high maintenance, and I would rather stitch than play on computer. Mm-hmm. So it's carolynstandingwebb.blogspot.com. And if you don't get all that down, if you just Google my name, it pops up.
All right.
And so that has like the background on the little bitty dress, and more things that I've done and kind of what I'm doing. And then there's also a link on it to the retail patterns that I have, but I don't sell them. Most the retail patterns you can get from 123 Stitch, which is an online store. I kind of made the decision not to retail my own patterns because frankly, I'd rather be stitching rather than, doing patterns. And so I do those. My old teaching pieces, like I say, if I happen to have one on hand, email me and I'll see if I've got one and then I'll sell it to you. But other than that, I usually don't. I won't make up the kits because it's, sometimes there's 20 or 30 different things and I don't want to do that for one kit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I put the blog spot in the chat window of the
thank you.
Out there. Take the second one because I mistyped it the first time. I put the 123stitch.com out there as well. And I was gonna check and see. I can't remember off the top of my head what your email address is, Carolyn.
It's carolynswebb@yahoo.com.
Okay, so that's out in the chat window too. So, any other questions from anybody? It started snowing on the east side of Denver now. I can see it out the window.
Yeah, we have had a really gray brown winter, and then it decided to dump most of one year's snow in about 4 days. So it's been kind of interesting. Lots of avalanches, but at least we've got water for next year.
That is true. We'll need it in the middle of the summer. So, okay, if no one else has any questions, then I think we're done. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Carolyn, very, very much for
thank you for asking. Yeah, thank you for asking me to do this. And thank you to all of you who take my classes and stitch my things. And I'm glad we can do this journey together.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Trudy, for doing this for us.
Yes,
You're
thank you so
welcome, man.
much.
You guys take care. Stay warm. Talk to you later.
Thank you.